I'd like to talk to you today about mindset related matters and specifically the power of the reframe. Now, this topic may seem at odds with the other videos that are in this series having to do with things that are clearly related to the match, but I would venture to say that all of you who are on this journey of trying to obtain a residency position where competition is tough and success often feels elusive, that all of you can benefit from understanding a little bit more potentially about your ability to reframe. So let's go ahead. I have only two things to convey to you today. First, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about post interview pre match mindset and then the power of reframing. Now, one of the things that I hear as a certified interview coach and someone who assists residents in the whole application process is I hear a lot about what people are thinking after they've gone on their interviews, as they're generating their rank order lists. And I hear a lot of things that aren't particularly kind things that people say to themselves. These things are things like, I'm so concerned that I won't match. What will people say? Or why did I ever think I could actually succeed at this? I can't figure out why my best friend got more interviews than me. A very common theme where people continuously compare themselves to others that they know in terms of how many interviews, how long their rank order list is, where they received their interviews, their USMLE scores, etc. I should have studied harder for the USMLE Step 2 CK. I'm so angry with myself. Or maybe I should just forget about this. I don't think I can overcome my year of graduation for applicants that are older. And then after interviews, oftentimes lots of questions, lots of concerns come up about the interview day. The PD talked to me only for 10 minutes. I bet he'd already decided he wasn't going to rank me. Or I wasn't at all prepared for the ethical dilemma they presented to me for discussion. I really messed that up. I forgot half the stuff I intended to say during that tell me about yourself question. I probably blew the interview, and I suspect that some of you who are listening can identify already with one or more of these sentiments and these concerns. The questions the PD asked me were so casual. If she were really serious about me, she would have asked me challenging questions. Or I had trouble with one of the behavioral questions. I think that will be a huge mark against me. So lots of inner voices going over, rewinding the tape, looking back to see and to analyze interviews. And indeed, there are individuals, and you may be one of them, who, after interviews or during interviews, are taking notes and relating in quite extensive detail what they said or didn't say in terms of their answers to a particular question. So they're more than just this, though. People are telling me things like the other people who applied this year are smarter, are more confident, are more interesting, are better conversationalists, have better resumes, etc. All comparisons that sort of one puts oneself down in these comparisons. Other thoughts such as, I don't know how I can face my mentor if I don't get a position. It's so embarrassing. Or my family helped me so much financially. I was so ashamed to tell them that I only had 2 interviews. They must think I'm a failure. And finally, my spouse has always been proud of my accomplishments. She must be really wondering if we should be sacrificing so much for my dreams. Sound familiar? So applicants often make up stories about their interviews, their IMG trajectory, their capabilities, their ability to succeed. It's what our brain does. We make up lots of stories. But the problem is that they come to view these stories as truth, even when oftentimes there's no real data to support these beliefs. And at worst, individuals can become limited by their own stories, the stories that they make up and tell themselves. So there's clearly a whole lot of literature now about mindset and growth mindset versus sort of mindset management in general. But I think if we go back thousands of years ago, Buddha really had it right by saying we are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. So, with that in mind, I wanted to talk now a little bit about mindset and the power of reframe. And I think you'll understand this particular graphic here, a woman who looks sort of pensive and somewhat, unhappy perhaps. And then with over time is able to seem like she's a little bit less disturbed, has some relief, less apprehension. So let's look at a few situations. Here's situation number one. I received only one interview offer. This is not uncommon. I have seen quite a few candidates this year who received only one interview offer. Some received no interview offers and were not candidates that had nothing to offer. They had plenty to offer, but they only got one interview. So on the left, this candidate is thinking, if I had been good enough, I would have received more than one offer. And when she thinks those things, what are her emotions? What are the emotions that naturally follow a thought like that? Worthlessness, sadness, hopelessness. You can substitute other adjectives, but those are really the emotions that come up, at least for me. Now, the situation can still be I received only one interview offer, but she has a choice to think about that differently. And in fact, another person might very well think of this differently because there's not only one way to think about a given situation. Think about that. There's never only one way to think about a situation. Everybody has their perspective. So, this individual now, with her reframed perspective, her reframed thought says, I received at least one offer to a program I like. I could still match. And that reframed thought has a different set of accompanying emotions, such as acceptance, maybe gratitude for the one offer. It doesn't mean she wouldn't have liked to have 10 interview offers, but she has one, and she can either choose to think about it in a way that produces thoughts and feel or emotions of worthlessness, sadness, or hopelessness, or she can choose a different thought, which leads to a different set of emotions, which I would think that we all could agree are much more beneficial, much lighter emotions. Let's look at another one. I wasn't interviewed by the program director. First initial thought was she probably only interviewed candidates in whom she was interested. And so, worthlessness, frustration, hopelessness. What could be the reframe thought? He wasn't interviewed by the program director. But now he says, I was assigned to one of the core faculty and my interview was great. We really connected. So instead of focusing on a thought that he should have been or could have been interviewed by the program director, he's now thinking about the fact that he had a great interview with the core faculty, and that generates a whole different set of emotions: excitement, positivity, gratitude. So this is cognitive behavioral therapy, and this is over and over and over again. We can see this used in different ways, but essentially, one confronts a situation or a circumstance. One has thoughts about that situation and circumstance. Those thoughts then generate certain emotions and feelings within us. And when we carry certain emotions and feelings within us, we behave in a certain way. We perform certain actions. An individual who's feeling hopeless has different actions than someone who's feeling hopeful. And as a result, the outcomes can really be different. So I would invite you then, When you have circumstances that seem quite difficult, first just observe the thoughts that you have about those circumstances with curiosity. Hmm. And then ask yourself, how are these thoughts serving me? How are they contributing to my current emotional state, to my behaviors? Do I wish to reframe them? And if so, how might I do so in a way that seems acceptable to me? That's really the whole process in terms of mindset reframe. So, the core of mindset reframe is really an intentional cognitive reframing process. It allows us to challenge and alter existing beliefs and thoughts. At least it allows us to look at them. It when done properly and it increases our feelings of optimism and hope. It can really help us to overcome obstacles, and in doing so opens doors to alternative possibilities and fosters a growth-oriented approach. So I hope that you have an opportunity to at least take something from this particular match season and consider a reframe that could potentially increase your positivity and your optimism and foster a growth-oriented approach. And I would end by saying and reminding you that I recognize that this journey is very hard and that it's going to test you many times over. Be kind to yourself and try to investigate reframing to gently kindle your optimism. Thank you. Thanks for joining me today. My goal at My Application Coach is to deliver meaningful content in bite-sized segments. I'd be honored if you'd hit the button below to subscribe to my YouTube channel and graciously provide your comments. I also invite you to check out my website, imgspecialist.com, where I offer personalized services assisting serious applicants with mock interviews, ERIS and personal statement review, and much more. Thank you.